You ever have one of those days where you just know something ridiculous is about to happen? Yeah, that was me. Standing in my driveway on a calm Saturday morning, sipping coffee, when a sharp knock rattled my front door like the start of a bad movie. When I opened it, there stood HOA Karen's husband, Steve, clipboard in hand, wearing mirrored sunglasses like he was auditioning for a reality cop show. "Morning," he said, tone clipped. "We've got a problem with your property. Now let me explain. Steve and his wife, Karen, run our neighborhood HOA like it's a personal kingdom. Karen's the self-appointed queen, and Steve? Her enforcer. Together, they fine neighbors for everything from having too many pumpkins in October to improper grass height. So when he showed up at my door, I knew this wasn't going to be about friendly small talk." "What kind of problem?" I asked. Steve smirked. "Your truck. It's parked in violation of HOA guidelines, blocking the sidewalk." I turned and looked at my driveway. My truck was perfectly parked, not even close to the sidewalk. "That's not true," I said calmly. Steve raised his clipboard like a sword. "I've got photos, and we'll be issuing a $250 fine." I laughed. "Then show me the photos." He flipped the clipboard around, and there it was, a grainy photo of my truck supposedly parked halfway across the sidewalk. Only problem? The background didn't even match my property. It looked photoshopped. "Where did you get this?" I asked. "Karen took it," he said proudly. I stared at him, realizing the game they were playing. They'd faked evidence before, neighbors said. But this time, they picked the wrong person. Because just last month, I'd installed a brand new security camera system that recorded everything. "Tell you what," I said, walking toward my porch. "Give me 10 minutes, and I'll show you something interesting." Steve frowned, clearly annoyed, but followed. Inside, I pulled up the footage from the exact time they claimed the violation happened. The video clearly showed my truck parked correctly, untouched. Steve's smirk vanished. "That's impossible," he muttered. "Oh, it's possible," I said. "And it's all on camera." He left without another word, muttering something about checking with Karen. But I knew this was far from over. Because when Karen gets embarrassed, she doesn't back down. She escalates. And sure enough, the very next day, I saw the police cruiser pulling into my driveway. When I saw that police cruiser roll up, my stomach dropped for a split second. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I knew exactly who was behind it. And sure enough, before the officer even stepped out, there she was, Karen, standing next to her husband Steve at the edge of my driveway, clutching a folder of evidence like it was a sacred text. The officer, a tall guy with a calm face and mirrored sunglasses, stepped out of the car. "Morning," he said, scanning the scene. "Got a report of a disturbance and a property dispute." Karen immediately jumped in. "Officer, thank you for coming. This resident," she jabbed a manicured finger toward me, "has been repeatedly violating HOA parking rules, and when we tried to issue a citation, he became aggressive." "Aggressive?" I almost laughed out loud. "Sir," I said, holding my hands up in disbelief. I didn't even raise my voice. "Her husband came to my door yesterday with a fake photo claiming I blocked the sidewalk. I have camera footage proving otherwise." Steve folded his arms. "Those photos aren't fake," Karen added. "We just want the HOA rules enforced. Everyone else manages to follow them." The officer looked from them to me. "Okay," he said evenly. "Let's keep this calm. Do you have the footage you mentioned?" I nodded and gestured for him to come inside. He followed while the royal HOA couple stayed outside, whispering furiously to each other. I pulled up the recording again, time-stamped, clear, and sharp. It showed exactly what I'd said, my truck parked neatly, not even close to the sidewalk. The officer leaned forward, watching carefully, then looked at me. "Mind if I step back out with you for a moment?" We walked back outside. The moment we did, Karen smiled smugly. "Too soon. See, officer? You understand the issue now?" "Yeah," he said slowly, crossing his arms. "I do." Karen's grin widened. Then he turned to her. "Because the footage shows your photos a fake. The truck never blocked the sidewalk." Silence. Karen blinked like she'd just been slapped by reality. Steve turned pale. "Sir," the officer said firmly, "I'd advise you to stop harassing your neighbor. Filing false reports can get serious." Karen tried to recover. "Well, maybe the footage was tampered with." The officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, I've seen enough." He turned to me, nodding. "You're clear here. Thanks for your time." Karen's smile cracked. Her husband's jaw clenched. And I swear if looks could kill, I'd have dropped right there in my driveway. But I wasn't done. Because what happened next would make the entire neighborhood take sides. The police cruiser had barely left when the whispers began. Neighbors peeked through blinds, curious about what had gone down between me, the HOA royal couple, and the officer. By evening, the whole block knew. Karen had been caught trying to fake a violation. At first I thought she'd hide in embarrassment. Oh no, that's not how Karen operates. The next morning, I woke up to find a bold red flyer taped to my mailbox, my door, and even my trash bin. Notice: homeowner under investigation for tampering with HOA records. Signed, of course, by Karen Mitchell, HOA president. I couldn't help but laugh. She was doubling down. That's the thing about people like her, they'd rather burn the truth than admit they were wrong. But here's the kicker. Other neighbors started comparing stories. Turns out, I wasn't the only one Karen had targeted. The Johnsons got fined for unapproved holiday lights that were the same kind everyone else used. The Rodriguezes were fined for visible trash bins, even though Karen's own were left out every week. When people realized she and Steve had been playing favorites, and sometimes faking, proof, the mood shifted. That night, I hosted a small gathering in my front yard. Just a few chairs, a cooler of sodas, and a projector linked to my security system. I replayed the footage for everyone. The moment the camera zoomed in on the timestamp and showed my perfectly parked truck, the crowd gasped. Then laughter erupted. "Unbelievable," Mrs. Johnson said. "She's been doing this for years. Somebody needs to stop her," another neighbor muttered. And that's when an idea started forming. We decided to call for a special HOA meeting. According to the bylaws, if enough residents signed a petition, we could demand one. By the next morning, almost every house on the street had signed. Even people who used to stay quiet were suddenly ready to speak up. When the notice went out, Karen's fury could practically be felt through the neighborhood. She stormed door to door, accusing me of organizing a rebellion. "Enjoy your little stunt," she snapped at me on the sidewalk. "You'll regret this." I smiled. "I doubt it. The truth's got a longer reach than your clipboard." She glared at me, her lips tight. "You think you're clever? Let's see how clever you look when the police come back. This time for you." And when she said that, I realized she wasn't bluffing. Because the next day, 2 officers showed up again. Only this time, they had a different reason for being there. When I saw the same police cruiser pull up for the second time in a week, I felt that familiar twist in my gut. But this time, I wasn't nervous. I was ready. Karen and Steve were standing at the edge of my lawn again. But this time, Karen had a confident grin plastered across her face. She was holding a flash drive like it was her ultimate weapon. The officer, different from before, stepped out and said, "We've received another complaint from the HOA. They claim you've been tampering with neighborhood property." "Tampering?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Karen stepped forward eagerly. "Yes, he's been editing footage to make us look bad. This drive contains the real video from his cameras. He altered the previous one to avoid his fine." I almost laughed. "You broke into my property to get that?" She smirked. "The HOA has authority to review community safety footage." The officer frowned. "Ma'am, you don't have authority to enter private property or seize personal surveillance data." That wiped the grin right off her face. Steve tugged on her elbow, whispering something, but she brushed him off. "Officer," I said calmly, "you might want to see my actual recordings again, straight from the source." We went inside and I brought up my system's log history. The officer watched carefully as I clicked on the playback timeline. The security camera had recorded everything, including the moment, late last night, when Karen and Steve crept onto my porch with flashlights and a USB drive. They tried to unplug the security hub, but the camera's backup unit caught it all, from their faces to the exact time. The officer's expression changed from curiosity to disbelief. "They broke into your property?" "Sure looks that way," I said. Outside, he confronted them. "Ma'am, sir, you're both on video entering his property without permission. That's trespassing, and tampering with private surveillance equipment is a criminal offense." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Steve's hands started to shake. We thought—" "No," the officer interrupted. "You didn't think. You acted. And now you're both going to need to explain that at the station." As the officers escorted them to the cruiser, the neighborhood began gathering around again, phones out, whispering. For once, Karen didn't have a speech, a clipboard, or a comeback. A few days later, the HOA held its emergency meeting. The entire board voted unanimously to remove Karen and Steve from all positions. When the final vote passed, a round of applause broke out. I didn't say a word, just smiled, leaned back, and thought, sometimes justice doesn't need revenge. Just a good camera and a little patience. And as the new HOA president shook my hand, he said, "Thanks for cleaning up the neighborhood." Literally. If you enjoyed watching Karen's plan fall apart, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and subscribe for more crazy HOA drama stories every week.